Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for my weekly Facebook Live. My question for you today is, do you know where you're going? And I will lead the blind in a way that they do not know. In paths that they have not known, I will guide them. I will turn the darkness before them into light and the rough places into level ground. These are the things I do, and I do not forsake them. Isaiah 42:16. As we approach the end of the year, do you know where you're headed in the next year? We could also ask the question, do we ever really know? We think we do. We make plans, but a lot of times those plans change. There is a saying, want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And that is so true. I know personally that this last year, many things did not go according to plan. My plans, that is. How are your plans faring? We're going into 2020 blind. We do not ultimately know what it will hold. And that doesn't mean that we don't make plans. It just means we can't hold on to them so closely. We have to trust God and depend on Him to guide us and be with us, as He promised in our verse. He is the light that lights our next step. Now, I have another recipe for you today, and of course this is going to be kind of a two-parter again like last time. We did a cauliflower crust a few weeks ago, and so now I'm going to do a crust with zucchini instead. Now, obviously, you could peel the organic zucchini if you didn't want to have the green flecks, but at the same time, there's nutritional value in the skins, and there's also, as long as they're organic, there's not a whole lot hopefully stuck to the outside. Cleaning them off a bit here. All right. So I'm actually wanting about 2 cups of grated zucchini. So I'm going to actually use a Cuisinart with a grating blade here. And you do have pretty high moisture content in zucchini, so usually you try to kind of squeeze out a little moisture before you actually These are a little tight to go down the center of this, so I'm cutting them up a little bit more than I pretty chunky, so. I've got a couple zucchinis here, and I'm going to look and see how much I actually have once I get this part of it. Good amount, but not quite full amount that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and do half maybe of this zucchini and see what it looks like. So I'm shooting for about 2 cups. We may end up with a little more, but we go ahead and use all of it. Okay. An additional slice here. Always have some little leftovers from what doesn't go through the Cuisinart, right? Okay, we definitely got a couple cups now. Over some. So we've got a whole thing of grated zucchini. I'll set that aside. Needless to say, we've got plenty. I may decide not to use quite all of that. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, I'm going to take a medium bowl here, and I've got a couple of organic free-range eggs in it, and I'm going to go ahead and break those up and beat them a little bit, which actually I'm using just a fork. Most of the time I find that works about as well as any of the beaters. It's easier to clean than the beaters. Okay, so that's fairly blended. So we're going to add a pinch or so of Celtic sea salt and about a half a teaspoon, which I'm not going to try to measure that. Didn't have to be that precise. Italian seasoning. Make this actually taste Italian a little bit here. Which is usually like your basil and oregano and all those other herbs. Okay, so I've got the eggs beaten up, the herbs are in there. I'm going to add a quarter of a cup of almond flour. So this is a little bit different recipe than what I did with the cauliflower. I'm trying to do this a different way without adding any arrowroot, because arrowroot is a starch. And I have to be careful not to use too much of that usually, or my body goes, sugar. Just true of any starch. Breaking up any clumps in there a bit. And then I'm going to add a half a cup of some non-dairy cheese. That's actually kind of almond cheese from Trader Joe's. The eggs and the cheese are basically your glue that's going to hold everything together. So, but I'm getting that all mixed because it's going to be a lot harder to mix when we get the other stuff in here. Just grabbing some extra paper towel here. And I already have a cookie sheet back here that I'm going to use, that I put parchment paper on. I can always use some of the grated zucchini and something else. I'm just kind of putting it in some paper towel and I'm kind of mashing it down a bit here. Just taking a paper towel, pushing it in, and get some of the excess moisture out of it so that it's not otherwise it's going to be kind of soupy. In most instances, you don't mind the zucchini having a fairly high moisture content, but when you're trying to use it in place of flour or, as bread substitute, it doesn't work so well. Okay. Taking it and putting it into our egg mixture. Get all of it off my paper towel now. It goes, I'm not going to cooperate. That back into there. And now I'm working that into the eggs. If I don't get it worked in fairly evenly, I'm going to end up with a chunk of egg in places and the thing won't hold together. So, trying to work that more evenly. And at this point, I'm just going to cook the crust after I get off, of course. And I'm going to cook it. We're going to go for about 3/4, maybe 1/2 inch thick. The thicker it is, the better it's going to hold together. And I'm going to cook it for 20 to 30 minutes until it's starting to get brown. And then I'm actually going to put this crust aside and freeze it so I can use this next week for our Facebook Live and actually top it and finish it off and make pizza out of it. Okay, and I'm just using my fork to spread it out. You want it thick enough that it'll hold together, but you don't want it so thick that it's not going to cook. I'm going for a happy medium in between the two. I'm trying to get it nice and even. That's looking about right. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the oven. And set it for 20 minutes. because we know we never set things for the longest period of time allowed. Always start at the low end, especially when you haven't done a recipe before and you're not sure how, what the temperature of your oven's like in relationship. You want to make sure that you don't overdo it. This is especially true of cookies. Always put cookies for probably at least half the time that it suggests in the recipe and look. Otherwise, they will overcook. And the same can be true of this, though it's a little less touchy. So anyway, I will be back next week to make pizza out of this crust, and with, of course, another verse and some more thoughts for approaching the new year. So I will see you next Tuesday. See you then.